Okay, this is a video I'm recording. I'm excited to do this because it's a project, something I've been trying to do, I've been interested in doing for a while, is how to chase or clean up old threads. Now, this is I'm taking examples on a Model A truck, car, but this video could be learning and instructional for anybody that's working with old automobile parts or thread and nut parts where the threads are worn, need reconditioning. And so it's going to be a long video, unfortunately, because I got to get through a lot of stuff. So let me jump right into it. So I got this old Model A hub to practice on, and the threads, when I got it, so for example, here's a lug nut. This is a brand new lug nut, and I put a black dot on there to show the rotation. I'll show you that in a second. So you guys are familiar with the old cars where, you put a nut or a bolt on and it goes down a few turns and stops, right? And so that's a strip thread, clog thread. There's problems either with the thread on the nut or on the bolt, right? And another example I had is I picked up this old Model A headlight bucket, and this thread here also came with this really old nut as well. And same thing, like when I got it, actually I had it wouldn't even come off by hand when I got it. I had to put some solvent on there. So same thing, it turns down a little bit and then stops, right? And you don't want to strip threads any worse than they already are, right? So chasing threads or cleaning up threads on your auto parts, or any parts really, it's different from, so I did a bit of learning myself, so that's why you're watching this video, so you can learn from me. It's different from cutting dies. So there's tools out there that will cut threads in a bolt or cut threads in a nut. What I want to do, and like if you already have existing threads on parts, you don't want to recut threads. You want to basically chase the threads or basically recondition them or restore the threads so that they'll work properly again. Now, what's the difference? On a die, when you're cutting here, and well, I won't get to that yet, it removes. When you cut on let's take this example of a bolt here. If I put a hardened die on here, made of a hard material, and cut threads, it's going to remove material. And once you remove material on any object, obviously, you don't get it back. It's gone. What will happen is you'll never have as good of a fit on there if you're stripping or taking off metal. You want to have a good fit on there, as good as possible. So chasing is the preferred alternative. Now, before you start chasing threads, what are some things you can do to make sure you can, because you want to go least aggressive to most aggressive, right? So the easiest thing to do at first is you get a wire brush, and you can get a wire brush. You can clean up the threads around here. If you have a drill, I'm pretty sure you all have drills, you can get, a cheap wire brush and go around the bolt here. For a nut, not so easy. There's I had a part. There's, oh, actually here, I can grab it here. There's parts you can, where's my tools? Oh, here we go. Sorry, not as prepared as I thought. You can get wire brushes like this, like a bottle brush wire brush, and yeah, for nuts, you obviously can't use a drill like that in here, but you can use like this and clean the inside with and you can get these online. These are pretty easy. They're made of brass or steel. This is a brass one. So you can clean up threads that way. That's the least aggressive, least abrasive way to do it. And sometimes you may get lucky and then, I just clean up the threads with a wire brush and it goes on. But you can see, oh wait, that's the wrong bolt hole. But you can see, I've already done this. So it's still, it's like, that wasn't enough. You got to do something a little more aggressive, but not cut them. You want to basically, chasing is probably your next option. So before you get into chasing threads, you have to know a few things. The basic things you have to know, whether it's a bolt or a nut, is you have to know the diameter, and you have to know if it's metric or standard. Now, on a Model A, they're all going to be standard, of course, SAE, but having kits and tools that can do both metric and SAE are good because, like, I own some Japanese cars, obviously. I'm sure you guys have other, not everything you own is standard based. So it's good to have tools that can do both metric and standard. So the other thing, so you have to know the diameter, and it's standard, and you have to know the pitch, the thread pitch. So the thread pitch, here's a brand new bolt here. So these threads, basically, if they're standard, the pitch is basically how dense or apart they are for standard. Now for metric, I don't have a metric example here. Metric thread pitch is a little bit different. It's basically the distance between each of the top of the threads. So they both have the concept of thread pitch, but metric measures it a little bit different from standard. So anyway, you can read more about that. There's a lot of stuff out there. So when I was starting this, I was like, all right, if I'm going to clean up this bolt and thread, I got to get some tools, right? So I looked around, asked around, researched. So getting the diameter, here's one simple tool. And I've seen these in garages before. I didn't really know what they were used for. Now I have a better idea. So this is a standard, basically you fit metric or standard size bolt. Now the pitch thing here isn't great, but what it does a good job of is measuring the bolt diameter, right? So for example, on this hub, here's this stud here, right? This bolt coming out. So what you can do is you just simply go through and like, okay, too small, too small. It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? You find the, just right. You can even go one extra and go, oh, that's too big because you see the slack, it's too much loose space in there. So you go, oh, you got that. Then you read that off and go, oh, that is a 1/2 inch bolt or stud there. Okay, I've got the diameter. Now, how do I get the thread pitch in here? So there's a few ways you can do this. So one method, I'll start off kind of with the more advanced method. You can buy a tool like this that measures the thread pitch for either standard or metric. Now, when I was researching online, this is made by a Japanese company. It's called Mitutoyo. Can you see that? Mitutoyo. This is supposed to be like a really high, like this is a really well evaluated, like it got a lot of good reviews on Amazon. I try to buy everything I can on Amazon. So this is supposedly a very good tool for measuring thread pitch. And it works kind of like feeler gauges. So you have a bunch of these mounted here and different teeth sizes for different thread pitches, right? So over here on the standard size, the way you do it is, and by the way, I'm going to show you some other ways to measure thread pitch. And this might be overkill. I think a tool like this is for someone who's either a serious machinist or doing a lot of work, not a weekend mechanic like me who's doing random projects. So it's good to have this. It's got a lot more options and things available than other tools. I mean, I can get really detailed. Look at all the, I don't know, I'll probably never use a lot of these things here. But I just bought it because, hey, I bought a Christmas gift for myself and I wanted to get it, so I got it. Anyway, the way you do this is, I'm going to have to zoom in here. So if you come down a bit, let's see if I can get in here. Can I get zoom? My camera sometimes, okay, can I get something in there? No, okay, well, that'll work a little bit. So on this one, for example, you probably can't see this, but like, for example, I'll start, like, here's 18 pitch, right? So that says 18 on there. If you hold the teeth, the tool against the threads, I really need to get closer. It should be an exact fit into those threads, right? So it doesn't like if you hold it here, it doesn't quite fit in there. There's a gap. Yeah, you have to, hold on. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer. I might be hitting the limits of my camera here. Am I? Yeah, that's probably, sorry. Okay. Closer? No? Come on, here. Okay, well, this camera doesn't do as... So you'll just have to kind of work with me here. So the 18, for example, where did I have it? Now I go to the next size up, which is going to be 20. So then I take this little 20 measurement here, and I put those teeth against the threads. And now that's, I can see I can see closer than the camera. That's like a really tight, that's a good fit. There's no gap. It sits on the threads really well. And then if you wanted to just be sure, if you go up one more to like, where's my, this is 22, the next one. So if I were to go up, so if you've worked with feeler gauges, this is very much like working with feeler gauges to measure gap or lash in something. And so my method is always go one higher and see, like, you know, one lower, one higher. Make sure you got the right one on here, right? So if I do the 22 one on here, I'm going to look here directly. Yeah, same thing. It doesn't, like, it just doesn't fit in those threads exactly right. So that's a little too fine. Like this 22 is too fine for these threads. It just doesn't fit right. So the 20 is the right one here. So that's one way to do it. That's kind of tedious, right? So the other way, I found another set of tools, which I think if you're just doing random stuff and you're not like a serious machinist, this is a better method. So I found this other tool, but this is, I mean, this is like if you're doing a lot of serious stuff with threads, you work a lot with, you know, like if you're working a lot with machining type stuff, this is probably a very good tool. It has, you'll have way more, I mean, between metric, this is just, there's a lot more on here on this tool measuring device than I'll ever use. But it's still a good tool, and I'll probably keep it, I don't know, maybe will it inherited by one of my kids if they want it or not, who knows. But here's what I recommend. I found this online too. This is called Thread Checker. And I'll show you why this is a lot. I think for practical use, you know, this is going to be your better option between, and it's also cheaper than the other tools. So what is Thread Checker, right? So this is pretty clever here. So these guys, I usually don't advertise vendors here, but I'm going to throw a lot of vendor names out here today. So these guys, what they did was they got a bunch of pre-configured sizes, both for male and female counterparts. So for bolts as well as nuts, right? And the black ones are the fine thread, and the silver ones are the coarse thread, because basically there's two kinds of threads. You can be coarse or fine. And this is a lot easier because what you do is you can just take one of these, and let's say you didn't know it was fine or coarse, right? So what you do is, like, you keep trying to, yeah, this is the tricky part here, hold on. You just take one of these and you try to screw it on, right? So let's say we try this one first. Now, it's not going on well. It's the right, it seems like the right diameter, but I know it's, you know it was 1/2 earlier because you measured, right? So if I look here, do you see where it says, can I get that 1/2? It says 1/2 13. Is that not showing up in the video? 1/2 13. So I got the right diameter, but it's not like, you know, it's not screwing on easy, right? And but by the way, when you're doing this, you don't ever want to force, you just want to do finger tight, right? And that's already not going on because the reason is this is a 13 pitch thread. It's too coarse. But I know it's a 1/2 inch diameter. I measured it earlier with this tool. But even if you didn't have this tool, I got the right diameter. So what I do is let's go over to the fine threads, and I'm going to pick the 1/2 over here. That's not metric. Oh, wait, is it? Oh, they're in line. Sorry. So if I do the, sorry, folks, here. If I look here, the 1/2 13 didn't work. But right, sorry. So I got that wrong. The silver ones are all standard SAE, and the black ones are all metric to make it easy, right? So if that 1/2 coarse one didn't work, there is a fine thread one here. So do you see where it says 1/2 20? it says 1/2 20, and if I try to put that on this bolt here, on here, okay, and then, hold on, sorry, I told you this was going to be a long video, and now I know it's stripped, but the idea is if I start turning it a few, like that goes on there. So this is going on, and I could keep, turning it, but that's the right thread pitch and diameter for that. So the nice thing with this tool, the thread checker, is they're already you just basically, you don't have to measure. It's just a little easier way. Now, you don't have as many options. There's not as many different pitches or things to measure. But if that fits right, you just read it off and you go, okay, that bolt is 1/2 20, for example, right? Now, these also work for nuts. So for example, here's a nut off of, so did I cover this earlier? So I'm doing this old Model A wheel hub here, but I'm also doing, this is a headlamp, and this thing is, stripped also. So there is a nut on here. So let's say you had this old nut and you wanted to find the thread pitch. Well, same thing. You would go through, and eventually what you would do is we could use that same 1/2 20 here. And instead of the female side, you get the male side, right? So all you do is you just basically screw that on. And that's do you see that's a good, that fits, it's good, it's tight. So this is I think using this thread checker is an easier way, if you've got pretty standard sizes, to figure out the thread pitch and diameter of what you're working on. Okay, so I covered those tools. Now, oh wait, I got more tools. So now, okay, you figure out your diameter, you figure out your thread pitch. Okay, I got to clean these up, right? What am I going to do? So I got a toolkit over here, and I'm going to give these guys a shout out. This is a thread chaser kit. And this company, Lang, I did a little bit of research, like these guys it's a USA made tools, good quality. And again, it's not a tool cutting die kit. It says, can you see that here? It says, maybe not, rethreading kit, and it's got metric and standard size. So again, big difference. You're not cutting new threads. You're going to chase or rethread existing threads, right? So what does it got in this kit here? So let's come over here and look. Okay, so what it's got is files. So it's got files for metric and standard. So the way these work is, if you know the thread pitch here, you just, so like for example on that wheel here, it's 20, right? So you look at 20, oh, there's 20 right there. And these basically are all like 20, right? So if you go over here, what you can do is, to start with, if it's not too bad, you can just very carefully use this file to kind of clean out your threads here. And if you get the right size, now that'll help if it's not too bad, but if it's in war shape, which these are, you're going to need to use one of these dies or tap tools, right? So again, we got 1/2. So if I am going to clean up this here, I get the right side. This is a 1/2 20 pitch, so you can't see it on there, but that's what it says. And if I wanted to clean up the threads on the nut, I get the equivalent tap here, and this is actually, this you can read. Is it? Yeah, maybe that says, oh yeah, 1/2 20 there. So for nuts, you can use this to chase or clean. And I'll show you. You have to put this. You have to put this in a vise, some secure place before you start doing this. Now, what's different about these tools is you'll notice little slots cut in here, right? So like there's a line there. There's a line there, and the same thing with the die here. If you look inside there, can you see inside there? There's little lines cut through between the thread. What those do are those little passageways. They catch the debris, the metal flakes. They catch things in the threads, and gives it a way to get out and clean it out without stripping everything on there. So, and dies work, cutting dies and cutting taps work the same way. But these, I guess, are made a little bit less aggressive, so they're not actually cutting new metal. But that's kind of how they work. So now, on this one, so now we're going to get back to the hub here on the Model A. So I did one. So I didn't really know if this was going to work or not. So I tried one out here. And if you want to try it for yourself, because if you don't do it right, you could really ruin the threads and it's like messed up for good, right? So you can see I got this old hub that if I screw it up, I'm not too worried about it because it's not brand new. But I put a dot here. This is a lug nut, right? So I put a dot here to show you as it rotates. The one I tried and cleaned out really worked well. Now, these are all in bad shape, right? So if I turn this, look, I can do it by hand, and it goes almost all the way. I could have chased it a few, but it goes almost all the way down to the bottom, right? Now, let's look at one that's not in good shape over here. And let's say you've cleaned it up with the wire brush or the file, and it's still not, working well. Let's see before and after, like what this looks like. So if I start this, you see the dot here? I'm going to count the rotations. So 1 rotation, 2 rotations, and 2 3/4. I can't, that's tight, right? At that point, it's, there's problems with the thread on this, right? On this stud. Now, I know the lug nut is good because this is a brand new lug nut. So what I'm going to do is, it's also advised you put a little bit of lubricant. Now, they say not lubrication, but this is cutting fluid. I'm not cutting, but when I looked around and researched, Rapid Tap seems to be a good one. You could find an equivalent one. But the idea is you put a little bit of that on here. And just, basically it'll help you in the process when you're cleaning up the threads. I think you could use like an oil if you had nothing else. I read some people are saying when you're cutting threads and cutting dies, don't use oil, use a thread, use a cutting fluid. There's a difference. But I think when you're, I don't know, to me, this has a consistency of kind of more heavy viscosity oil. But, use something at least. Don't just do this dry. So, okay, that's on there. So now our next step here is we're going to get the right die, right? So remember earlier we measured, we know it's a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch diameter bolt and a 20 pitch. So this is it. Now the way you do this, and you got to get a wrench, right? So it turns out on these bolts, this is a 3/4 inch wrench. Now, the way you're going to chase this thread is you rotate a little bit, then you come back. You rotate and come back. So you're always, as you go down, you're going forward, then back a little bit. As you're doing this, if you really wanted to, you could just take it off a bit, clean it up a little bit, then put your rethread die back on. Okay, and then get it down to fingertip, then keep doing that. So rotate, come back, rotate some more. And you just keep doing this as you kind of recondition those threads. You're trying to chase those threads, and you just keep doing this. This is taking a little more time than I thought. You can see, you can feel the progress as you do this. I'm definitely, as I go down and I, okay. All right. Let me go a little more. Okay. So I'll do one more rotation here. All right. So let me bring this back up now. I didn't go all the way down yet. I know I'm trying to be mindful of time. I did say it was going to be a long video, right? So as you bring this back up, Okay, clean that up a little bit. Now let's get our lug nut and again see if we can make more progress on the rotation. So remember it was 2 3/4 last time. So this is 1 turn, 2 turns. Now look at that, 3 turns, 4, 5, very smooth. 5, and so I got about, so you can see by chasing that thread, I'm able to get more, so now I can get more out of it, right? And that's basically walking through how you would chase. Now, if you have a nut, you do it a similar way, right? So this one is a little bit, the threads aren't good in here either. Now, you can't, whoops, where'd I go? Now, to do the nut, you have this basically tap, so you have a male part over here. So you need you need something like a vice grip here. So put it in a vice, something secure. Put a bit of this cutting fluid in there. Oh, that's a little too much. I'll clean that up later. So try to, oh, and you can also put the cutting fluid on the tap, right? So you can put it on here. I'll do a little bit of that. Okay. And same thing, right? When you rotate it, you're going to start it. And see already, like it's tight, right? So when you start it, you're going to go forward and backward a little bit. So I'm going to go, oh, this is not the same. Okay, so let me get, sorry, I thought that was, let me get a different wrench for that. I was not prepared for that either. What was it, 5/8? Yeah, okay, so that's a 5/8. Well, don't worry about that. So anyway, you'll get the right, you have wrenches in your garage, so get the right one. So I'm going to go forward and back, right? So forward, let me go here, so I'll hit the camera. Pop that up a little bit. So, and you can see little you can see in these channels here, as you go back and forth, you can see some debris coming up. So it might be some old metal, it could be, rust, it could be a lot of things, right? So I'm just going back and forth, back and forth. So I'm chasing the nut here using this tool, this chase tap. Now it's not cutting, to be clear, it's not cutting new threads. It's cleaning up or helping recondition, restore the existing threads in there. Okay, so this one I'm going to do all the way, I think. And I think at that, okay, so at that point I think I've gone all the way, yeah. So this has gone all the way through. So now, because the threads, I should be able to by hand now, I don't need a wrench, I can take it out. Okay, you take that out. Now to test it, you have to, I could try it on one of these, this is for the headlight, not the butts. It turns out the bolt's the same size, so this is a good one here. So if I put that on there, I should be able to go by hand and not have any rough, so look at that, that's like, that's down here to the bottom here. So that's good. This nut now is much better conditioned after chasing the threads. Where I need it to go is on this, let me rotate here a little bit. I need it to go on this headlight bolt here. And now that I know the nut is better, now I've got a new nut here. Something for Model A folks, I've been told is, when Ford originally manufactured these threads, it's actually a bit of a tighter tolerance than some of the newer remanufactured parts. So what that means, for example, is like if you have, and it's hard to find the original parts nowadays, but if this was like original, I'm pretty sure this is original bucket, but see, that goes on much smoother now than it did. See, I can get all the way down. Now, not all the way. If you look here, if I bring this up, I got it down this far, but I'm hitting problems on these. So these threads are in not good shape below here, right? So when you put that on, that's pretty tight. Like if you feel it, that's pretty tight on there. Sometimes if you get newer parts, like this is a newer nut. Oh, I'll get that one. If you put it on, let's put this on here. I can actually slightly, there's a slight, you can't see in the video, but like it's a slight movement. Not bad. I mean, it'll still tighten down when you install it, but you can feel a little bit of slack, a little bit of play in there. So that's just something to keep in mind is if you get newer bolts and nuts with a Model A, sometimes they may not fit exact, and we're talking like, thousandths of an inch maybe differences here, but sometimes you can feel a little bit of slack in there compared to the original. So try to keep your original, that's why we did the video, right? We're trying to restore and keep our original nuts and threads, right? So let me pick up part I dropped. All right, so we're going to chase this bolt here, right? So here we're going to do, let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to use that same die here. So here it is. I'm going to use the cutting fluid, the rapid tap. Put that on there. Okay, now normally I would mount this like in a vise, but it's it's kind of, I'm going to have to do it by hand. Oh, I can take the washers off, so I don't need the washers. I don't have an easy way to mount this because it's awkward, so I'm just going to try to do it on here. So what I'll do is start the die, and the same thing, right? So I'm going to I think for this, I would have to hold it like that. And so I'd turn it a few, come back, turn it a few, come back, turn it. Now the beginning threads are not bad shape, so I don't have to spend, but I know as I get down on this bolt, I'm going to hit more stubborn threads, right? So let me get down to that part. All right, here. Actually, that's pretty smooth. I know there's stubborn. Oh, yeah, here we go. So you'll feel more resistance when you get to the threads that are problems. So make sure you back those out. And I can also see tiny, again, there's tiny, you can't pick up in the video, but tiny little pieces of debris are coming off as I chase these threads, which is good. It's cleaning up the threads. That's what this is supposed to do. So keep going, a little more. And again, I'm sorry it's not mounted, but I can't really mount it, so it's wobbling in the video. Now that's on there pretty good. All right. Okay, again, going back and forth, just back and forth. Actually, that was pretty... Okay, so I think, am I almost down to the bottom here? Yeah, I think that might be, actually I might be at the bottom now. So let's bring this back up. I should be able to bring it back up by hand because if I properly chase these, they should be a lot easier. And sure enough, by hand now, using my fingers, I can easily back off this die. And let's get the original bolt in here. Sorry, original nut. Well, the nut it came with. So here it is. Remember, it was having problems going on before. So now, after we've chased, so I chased both the threads in this nut and on the bolt where the headlight mounts here. So let's start that. All right, feels good. It's going down. It's going down, going down. That's, look at that. No, like I'm just using my fingers, no resistance. Look at that, smooth all the way down. So that is a success, folks. So that is how you want your automobile threads for your bolts and your nuts to work. Nice and smooth, not all crappy and stripped. So you've got a way now to do this for yourself. And again, I'm kind of like, I was sorry it took longer, but I'm pretty excited because you've always encountered like stripped threads, bad threads, and now you have a way to do it yourself. So, you can get, this is a really basic tool. You can get it for a few bucks. This will give you the diameter of your bolt. Then you need a way to measure the pitch. This is an expensive tool to do. I mean, if you're going to do a lot of this, you're serious, you probably already own one of these. But I think for those of us that are maybe more weekend mechanics, I definitely recommend this thread checker. These are just a lot more easier. They have both the male and female sides. And then to actually clean up the threads, this kit here, this is a 40-piece rethreading kit. Let me zoom in on that so you can see it and what it comes with. These are the dies that are round. These are the taps that are male parts, and then these are the files to help clean up threads also. So anyway, that's my Christmas gift to myself and my learning experience about thread pitches and chasing threads. I hope this was useful to everybody, and good luck out there in your automobile efforts.